KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more. Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
Hey, The Finest listeners. First of all, thank you for being here and for listening to our first 6 episodes. We hope you enjoyed them as much as we enjoyed making them. Before we get into today's episode, we would love to hear what you think of The Finest so far. The show is new and we're still figuring it out as we go along. So tell us, which episodes are resonating with you? What kind of stories and topics would you like to hear us explore in the future? Let us know. There are a bunch of ways to reach out to us. You can send us a note at kpbs.org/thefinest, or email us or send us a voice memo at thefinest@kpbs.org. Today, we're bringing you our very first bonus episode. We'll drop these every now and then. Sometimes it'll spotlight another KPBS podcast, a follow-up on a previous story, or even a casual chat from the team.
I really want to explore food. I love food stories. And then, I love eating, so, doing a food story is, probably the most fun kind of thing you can do.
Next week, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. In our upcoming episodes for the summer, we'll hear from a Kumeyaay scholar who wrote a comic book. We'll also go birding and meet San Diego's current species count leader. We'll hear the story of some old friends who found street art as a way to stay out of trouble, but instead got caught up in a graffiti sting operation. We'll look at an exhibit of textile art honoring Our Lady of Guadalupe and go deep into the legend, its roots, and recent evolution. And we'll talk to some local bands, and I promise we'll get Anthony on a food story soon. But today, we wanted to do something a little more chill. We thought it'd be fun to introduce ourselves and give you a behind-the-scenes peek at how The Finest comes together. So I sat down with our producer, Anthony, and our editor, Chrissy, at the SDSU Theater right next door to the KPBS station. We talked art, San Diego, and the journey of making this podcast. And we filmed it, too. You can find some clips on our website. We even used The Finest branded question cards, which made us feel like the real deal talk show hosts. From KPBS Public Media, this is The Finest, a podcast about the art, movements, and people redefining culture in San Diego. I'm Julia Dixon Evans.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more. Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
The member of our team whose voice you haven't heard yet is Chrissy, our editor. She'll kick things off.
Okay, so I'm going to start. What's the most that's not art take you're prepared to defend?
Okay. I feel like I'm pretty, chill. I don't think I would say, Marvel movies aren't art.
Not Scorsese?
Yeah. Or, I don't know, maybe, a really postmodern thing. I could get behind, the urinal on the wall, maybe going too far.
I think I also have a pretty expansive view of it. I feel like I could defend any of that, the urinal on the wall. Okay, so I take my kids to museums a lot, and kids are notorious for saying, I could do that in front of, a color field painting or something that's just, one smear of paint. And I think, the defense for that is, but you didn't. Right? That's my first reaction to those things. That's not art. Is thinking about somebody made it and you didn't?
I will say, like, I'm pretty much always on the side of like defending like a contemporary painting that's just like splotches of color and stuff. And I think like if you stand in front of one of those for a long time, you can have a really cool experience. Maybe it just takes some openness to it. But I got like a reel that was like, was this a contemporary artist or a 4-year-old? And they would show a thing and then you'd have to guess, and I got one wrong.
Oh, was it?
It was by a 4-year-old,
Oh, wow.
and I thought it was but maybe the 4-year-old's just like actually an amazing artist.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of like boundary pushing too, that like noise art, sound art, death metal as well. Like there are things that are like a little bit more accessible to more people that are just also abrasive. I don't know. I think that I could defend those too.
I don't know. Yeah, there's stuff that people would say like, that sucks, but I don't know if they would say it's not art. But I think I like a lot of music that a lot of people are like this. But maybe like I went to a yoga place in Ocean Beach, and the teacher was like, did like a singing performance like during Shavasana that I thought was amazing, which I think is definitely art. Maybe most people would also agree, but yeah, I'd prefer to just have the broader view that, you know, it is art. But yeah, I think there is bad art. I don't want to be too positive, I guess, where I was saying everything's art, everything's good. Yeah, I guess the worst offender would just be like things that are lifeless and don't have much like passion behind them and are really just some kind of like imitation. So like maybe if you go into like a new apartment building and the decor in the lobby is just looks like all the other new apartment buildings, that would be bad.
We went to Paris and I saw the Mona Lisa, and I think it's like super overrated. And it's so small.
It's so small. It's definitely smaller than you expect.
But also we were in the Louvre, and the security was not like enforced at all, really. And people were like eating in the museum, and someone actually dropped a jar of jam. And I wish I took a photo, but I was just so like shocked.
Like it broke?
It broke, and it like splashed across the wall.
It is interesting that the Mona Lisa is the most famous painting in the world. It's just because it was stolen in the early 1900s, and it was a media sensation.
Yeah. What's the difference between arts and culture? I guess, Julia, you can go first.
Okay, I would say that art is something that is made, anything that is made, poetry, music, theater, food. And then culture is a little more broad. It's more like your identity, whether it's as a region or as an individual. So it's your background, it's the food you grew up with, it's what is happening in your neighborhood. And I think so many more things fit into culture.
I was thinking about what culture is, and I think culture is just everything that gives a particular place and space or time its character and color. So think about ancient civilizations or other countries. It's just all those things you think about when you think about that place, and it's really what makes it what it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great answer.
Well, then now, how do you guys define art in the context of our podcast?
I think for me, at least the way that we're thinking about finding stories, and when we have a story, like digging into how the interview is going to go and what we spotlight, like I'm thinking more about the way the art is made or who the person is behind it. So it's really individual and it's really creative and about the process or the motivations and the dreams and who that individual is.
Yeah, I think, I guess I think of my philosophy of art classes from college, but, you know, art is like content plus form. It's like an idea that's put into a emotionally compelling package of some kind, whether it's painting or poetry, music. And so I think with the podcast, it's great to explore those ideas and the stories, the things that are important to these artists and why, and how they're expressing them through the art.
Anthony's gonna summon academia on every answer.
I'm up? Okay. What can people expect from the podcast?
I think for me, it's like those little seeds of relatability that we have, like in addition to the story and these like amazing things that people have gone through, there's always something in there that is like, I relate to it. And sometimes when like the episode is on the chopping block and we're trying to find things to cut or ways to like tighten up the story, I get really attached to those little moments where I'm like, this person is leading a totally different life than me. They are doing something incredible with their art, but they still have this little human thing that I do. And I love those things.
Yeah, I think that helps their art resonate with you a lot more when you realize there's a connection between your life and their life.
Yeah, and I think like all three of us are very different, and whenever we talk to someone or we hear their story, I think we kind of attach ourselves to a different part of what they're telling us, and I think that's what our audience will find too. And like we're all three very different people, and we're still connecting to this one artist or this one creator. So.
We've said this a lot, but I hope it helps people feel like they know San Diego better.
Yeah, for sure.
What makes you excited about this project? Talk about culture and arts in San Diego. Julia?
What makes me excited about this project is probably the chance to like really spend a lot of time with people and their stories. And, it takes us out of this like rapid fire, upcoming events, news cycle. Even talking about art, like it's still very like what's happening this weekend or what is in the news right now. And it gives us a chance to like step outside of that and like spend a ton of time on one person or one business or one area and like get that full story. And I think that is really like par for the course for what is really exciting about arts and culture in San Diego. Like if you look for it and if you spend a little bit of time, like you can find something really magical. And there's also a ton where you don't even have to try. Like you can like walk down any city block and there's probably an art gallery. You can go to a concert in like every corner of the county. You can find something to do quite easily. And what I love about the work that we're doing with this podcast is like we're showing you what amazing stuff is there if you dig and if you spend some time looking.
I also think we're also looking at art in a different way, like a new way where, like we mentioned, like there's music and there's theater performances and there's like paintings in the museum. But our first episode actually is about tea. And that's something that I think not a lot of people will connect to arts and culture. But once we met these tea makers, it's like the culture of San Diego, and so I think we're kind of like pointing out the art and culture that's under your nose, but you just don't realize like the impact that it's having in your community, in your city. So
yeah, it's like a tea store that you maybe have heard of, maybe driven past or got one of their drinks at a farmer's market, but there's this whole world that's underneath that you can learn about.
Here's one. I'll start with Anthony because you just moved here. So I want to know what you think makes San Diego's cultural scene unique from the perspective of like a former outsider.
I think the first thing I think of is the proximity to Mexico, where it's basically one metropolitan area like Tijuana and San Diego. And that is very unique I've never lived in a place like that. And I love Mexico, so it's like an amazing amenity for me to be able to like just like walk there and get food and hang out. One dimension of culture, sports. I've been interested and excited by how passionate San Diego is about its sports teams. I've always thought that San Diego was like unjustly stripped of its major NFL and NBA team. And it seems like the result is almost like the city has just like poured its love into the Padres and the Wave and the new MLS team and even the minor league hockey team. So I think that's really cool and exciting.
And Chrissy, you grew up here.
Yeah.
So what about you? What do you think makes San Diego's cultural scene unique?
I think just like the sheer like variety of things here. The typical like surf culture, beach culture, but then there's also like a lot of like military families, or the military plays like a big role in San Diego, and I don't think a lot of people kind of like attach that to like culture and arts. I went to San Diego High School. I was in ROTC. So
Really?
Yeah. So that's like kind of, and then I see there's like a lot of artists that come out of there. We have like the KPBS has like the GI Film Festival. So there's like great art coming out of that community that you don't always like realize. Besides just art, we're talking about culture. There's like lots of food and fashion, and we have like these communities, and like on Convoy you can get every single type of Asian food you could possibly imagine. We have it here in San Diego, and not just have it, but it's like done really well. So I think that's what's unique about San Diego.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more, Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
What's something unexpected that falls under art or culture that you hope to explore?
I don't know if it's unexpected. Food, I really want to explore food. I love food stories. I've done a lot of those in my career as a journalist. I think they're a great like entryway into personal stories. Like food is so tied up in your family and in memories. And then like I love eating, so like doing a food story is like probably the most fun kind of thing you can do.
I think that's like really true too. You said like food's like individual, but also it's like very universal. Like everyone has to eat. And I think we talked about this before too, where doing like you can like review or you can like talk about a movie or a TV show or book even like elsewhere, but to talk about like a region's food, you like kind of have to be there. And I think that's like something that I'm excited to explore and look into, just like the food culture here.
I think for me, the unexpected thing is like nature. And, we talked to a botanist. We talked to a parks employee. Like that kind of thing is it's really fascinating to me. I'm a nature person. And so to like bridge those worlds. And I also feel like hiking and running groups, like those are all ways that people connect also. Like that's where I get the deepest in conversations, like with my friends. And so I feel like bringing storytelling back to that place is kind of full circle, I guess.
I think I'm really excited to kind of get to know people who, again, like I said, like you don't always connect them as an artist or like a typical artist. I think the other day we were doing an interview and somebody mentioned that this piece was created by a piñata artist. And that's like really something where everyone knows what a piñata is, but like, have you ever thought about like the creator, like the person behind it, to hear those stories. Like, how do you become a piñata artist? Like, what motivates them to do the work that they do and why it matters to the community.
Okay, if someone listening wants to get more involved in the arts community, where should they start?
If you're interested in getting more involved in the arts community, I think like just by listening, hopefully you'll feel more connected. Like hopefully the episodes help people relate to the art and the artists. Maybe sometimes it can feel like intimidating to try to approach a new form of art or food or something. But I think when you hear the stories and you hear more about it, hopefully the walls will break down. And then I think for most of the episodes, it's pretty like easy to see what you can do if you're interested. Like go to the restaurant, listen to the musician, go to shows. And I think a lot of the people we've interviewed have mentioned specific suggestions of like, if you want to, feel more connected to this scene, go to these places, try this.
Yeah. And I think that's like another thing that's like great about being involved with your community in the arts is that you can like have a conversation with these artists. They're not like, some far-fetched person that like is untouchable feeling, like you can interact with these people and become friends, So I think that's like really cool and a way to support these people that we're talking to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And feel more connected to the community. I guess all this stuff is local, so it's like you can like live your whole life just like listening to music that's international and eating at chain restaurants and stuff. But there is something special about like engaging like on a day-to-day basis with things that were made in your community that reflect its unique character.
I think one of the things that like we tossed around when we were like very early brainstorming for this podcast was like the idea that somebody making something great could be your neighbor, right? And it's like the flip side also is like these great things are made in your neighborhood or made in the place you live. I love that.
I thought you were going to say the flip side is your neighbor can be a murderer.
Yeah, the flip side also.
If this podcast had an outrageous tagline, what would it be?
I don't know. I feel like we have a lot of inside jokes now that are like, it's a podcast where when we're talking about something and Anthony says, oh, we should make a podcast about that. Or like, we should call that person. I don't know. Anthony's we should make a podcast about it. You can always hear it before he says it.
Yeah, whenever we're
in a casual conversation.
Or like we're pitching news stories and you're like, oh, that could be a podcast. And we're like,
it's a podcast about stuff that could be a podcast.
We always joke though.
Not our finest answer.
There's been lots of like numbers.
It's a math podcast.
Yeah, we always joke that it's a math podcast. So, but it's not because I'm awful at math.
Interesting numbers.
Yes, interesting numbers. Math at work in your life today. Anthony's actually a really good mathematician.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was a lot of fun talking about the podcast, but we have a lot of work to do, a lot more episodes to make, so let's wrap this up and get to work.
Okay. And you can find The Finest wherever you get your podcasts. Been waiting to say that. All right. That was more awkward than I thought it would be.
Should we do one more take?
Just like an outtake.
Yes. Yeah, that's okay.
He's right. And I've been dying to say this, but you can find The Finest wherever you get your podcasts. Good job. And now that you've heard from us, we want to hear from you too. Tell us what you think, and also, what is it about this region that inspires you? Or give us your hot take about art. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It really helps new listeners discover the show. And best of all, if you can think of anyone in your life that might like The Finest, please share it with them. Next week on The Finest, we examine an icon. Our Lady of Guadalupe has been a powerful symbol for 500 years. She emerged during a dark period of oppression in the Americas. And over the centuries, in large part thanks to artists, she's been reimagined as a source of resilience and pride.
She has all of these layers. You know, she can be a private figure, she can be a public figure, she can be a source of comfort, she can be a source of pain. And I think people really need to understand that, like, you know, she isn't just one thing. Her power comes because she has all of these different facets to her.
The Finest is a production of KPBS Public Media. I'm your host, Julia Dixon Evans. Our producer is Anthony Wallace, who also composed the score. Our audio engineer is Ben Redlosk, and our editor is Chrissy Nguyen.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more. Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.